Okay, traders, welcome back to another stream. Let me see if I've got the right mic on. Yes, I do. So yeah, guys, welcome back to another stream. Hope everyone is doing well. As always, guys, if you are enjoying the content, please be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and of course, make sure you do go and hit the bell so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. Check out the Elevating Traders Discord channel, completely free to join. Link to that in the description below, and also at the top of the chat. Can't miss it. Join other traders, chat with other traders, chat with myself there as well. Share opportunities I'm looking at, discuss setups if you are interested, check it out. And of course, you can learn a little bit more about elevating traders as well if you're interested. So check it out. But guys, excuse me, welcome back to another stream. Hope everyone had a good weekend and is ready for the week. What's up, Will? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're well. Good morning. What's up, Philip? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing good. My weekend was good. Thank you. Thank you. Life was good for Euro USD. Oh, yes. You were shorting Euro. Oh, it's short pound as well. Yeah, I remember you mentioning you were shorting Euro earlier last week. Held over the weekend. So, yeah, the gaps will definitely be a nice payday for you then. Because we had some big gaps in the market, boys and girls. Big gaps across numerous asset classes. So, it's going to be an interesting week. Do we fill these gaps or do we just continue bearish? Of course, a lot of these markets already have a bias for them. So I'm kind of expecting price to do certain things. And we'll go through a bunch of them and I'll share that bias. And of course, people who have been tuning to the streams for a while kind of know what I'm looking at. So we'll go across that, speak about the gaps, potentially are we going to fill the gaps or are we going to continue bearish or bullish for certain markets? But yeah, Euro USD, Pound USD, big gaps to the downside. I think this is probably one of the biggest gaps we've seen in a very long time, especially for Euro USD. Look at the size of that gap. This is a daily chart, by the way. Look at the size of that gap. And then if you just scan across the markets, you're going to take a while to find a gap. I know I'm not looking so vigorously, but I'll probably say maybe something like that is probably equal to the gap we've just seen. And this was back in 2017. Of course, that's just a rough view, but yeah, we don't normally see gaps that big on Euro USD. So it was a pretty big gap across numerous markets. Of course, gaps are pretty frequent, but just not as big as this. So yeah, pretty volatile price action there. But as always, good morning, Ahmed. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're well. Okay, you're buying Euro USD now. Okay, we'll go through that. Dark Sean, what is up? Hope you're doing good. Yeah, big gap for GJ as well. Numerous FX markets gap. So I don't think anyone got missed out. Maybe Aussie New Zealand dollar. I had a look at that one this morning. I don't think it gapped unless I was blind at that time. We'll check at some point. But yeah, pretty much all FX currencies, currency pairs did gap other markets as well, which we'll get into as well. What's up, Julius? Good morning. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're well. So yeah, we'll go through the DXY market, take a look at USD majors, gold and silver. Of course, I haven't actually looked at gold and silver if they've gapped. I haven't actually checked them out. Probably have, but I haven't actually looked at them. So we'll go through those markets as well. And of course, we'll go through some requests as well, see what you guys are trading. And we'll go through my watch list as well. But yeah, really big gaps this week. Of course, if you shoot it over to the DXY, very bullish. So again, price looks like it's bounced from that area on the 4-hour time frame very well. I was looking for price to either form a higher low or come back and respect the same low. So an equal low, double bottom. In other words, didn't really happen. We had the gap to the upside like Monday, Tuesday last week. Consolidated for most of the week. And then, of course, on Friday, we had that kind of slight push to the upside, which was kind of insinuating potentially we might see a bullish dollar next week, or at least a push next week to the upside. Whether, of course, that will remain the whole week, we'll have to wait and see. But we had this really big week to the downside, closed very strongly bullish. Euro USD closed very strongly bearish, Pound USD as well. USD had a big candle to the upside. So we'll take a look at that in a second. But we were having some type of bullish momentum right at the end of last week. And of course, in terms of the larger structure, we were looking for continuation to the upside. We had the high over there, higher low, higher high. So the job was, or the plan was, looking for the next higher low. I like this area here a lot because we had a nice consolidation there. Really strong move to the upside. Price never came back to revisit it until then. So it was a nice fresh area of demand, support, resistance. and price had a really strong reaction from that. So for the DXY, I actually do expect us to see more upside back to the swing high, because I'm just basically looking for the continuation of a trend here. So if that's the next, if that's the previous higher low, that's the next higher high, then I'm anticipating this to be the next higher low, and I'm looking for the next higher high. So I actually do still see more upside for the dollar. Again, long term, we're still holding on to that weekly level of support, which was prior resistance over here, now acting as support. So as long as we stay above this and we still keep that momentum up outside of this range here on the weekly chart, long term, I do still see the DXY pushing back to that high at 113. So I'm still very long-term bullish USD. So pretty much that's my bias. Of course, there'll be times for retracement and times to go counter that trend. But at the moment, I do think USD is likely going to continue higher. Of course, it was a very big move to the upside, many gaps in the market. We could see a bit of retracement before that happens. I probably wouldn't be surprised if that does happen, to be honest. But in terms of the bigger move for dollar, I still do see it back to the upside to take out these highs at some point in the near future. So very, very bullish on the DXY. Again, this would be a nice place for price to retrace to. I'm not too sure we'll pull back that far. Maybe we do, but that would be a nice place. And of course, we'll see the corresponding areas in other USD markets. That would be nice for the dollar. But yeah, anticipating new highs past 110 pretty soon. In terms of Euro USD, again, just basically looking at the inverse of the DXY. So I've been expecting Euro to get back to these lows here. And again, we're very close to doing that. This was our prior swing low. This was our lower high. This is our new lower low. So again, I'm anticipating this high to be now the next lower high. And I'm looking for price to go and take out those lows. Now, of course, we do have a massive gap just ahead of us here. Price could potentially go and fill that first before continuation. And in fact, that would be great. That would be great if price did that, because, again, gaps in the market are not necessarily, just the areas where price has been kind of inefficient in terms of filling that area, because of course transactions between Euro and USD don't just stop on Friday, they continue throughout the whole week. So it's not that, of course, to us traders, they stop on Friday, and then they reopen Sunday evening, or depending where you are in the world, but transactions between Euro and dollar don't stop over the weekend. So there are price action here, and potentially price might want to go fill that inefficiency before continuing. So we could see that happen for Euro, hence why buyers could be a smart play in the meantime, taking advantage of that gap, of that potential retracement before continuing lower. So I can understand the bias from that point of view, but in my eyes, the trend is still very much down, momentum is still very much down, and USD still looks very bullish as well. So I'm anticipating us to go take out these lows at some point. And like I said, potentially you might see retracement to fill the gap and then a drop, which would be great actually, because if we could see that happen, that could provide some nice opportunities later in the week on the lower time frames to find another lower high to keep shorting. In fact, that's what I want price to do. I wouldn't want it to take out the lows there, because it doesn't really present an opportunity for myself. If we do push up, opportunities do present, and we can keep shorting it. If we do like just dump to the downside and take out the lows, then I want to see a lot of momentum from Euro, and then I'll be looking for the next pullback for the next bearish leg. So yeah, pretty bearish on Euro. Big gap there. Potentially could go look to retrace that and find some lower highs higher up in the week. That would be nice. But yeah, I just have to wait and see if that's going to be the situation that will occur. In terms of direction, very bearish, expecting these lows to be taken out again at some point in the future. Pound USD, same situation as well. Of course, Euro and Pound, very, very similar currency pairs. Big push to the downside here for Pound USD. Not as big as a gap as Euro, but again, still pretty big gap. And I still see Pound USD pushing back to the lows here. That's still very much the plan. Again, if I zoom out, excuse me, onto the daily chart, you can see we do have these clean lower lows and lower highs since the high printed back over here in September. High over there, another lower high, another lower high. So again, looking at this as potentially the next in that sequence, and we're probably going to see a push back to these lows here if the trend does continue, which is what I'm anticipating it to do. So again, with the big gap there for Pound USD, we could see price come back, go and retest that range, fill the gap as well, then potentially continue on its path to the downside back into these lows. Again, that would be a great opportunity, because right now we've had a big gap. It's difficult to short now, but if price does go fill the gap, retest some of the consolidation, we can find some entries in that area and possibly continue that trend back to these lows, or at least back to where we came from. So if you do get a short up there, push back to that low makes a load of sense there. So pound USD in terms of direction, again, still very bearish, expecting more downside. We potentially could go and fill that gap, which would be great in terms of opportunities, both for buying and selling if you're trying to take advantage of the gap fill, and if you try and take advantage of that larger trend at play. That would be nice, but the opportunity I'm more focused with is definitely the shorts here for pound. And again, still looking to target that swing low back at 1.21. And in terms of dollar CAD, massive gap to the upside of this one as well. Huge gap there. Again, really a nasty gap there for any sellers of dollar CAD, really, because we're stuck in that range. It did look like we were breaking outside the range with that candle close. I said on my weekly analysis that price could go fill the gap there. I mean, not fill the gap, sorry. Fill the wick down the left, take out the wick high. That will give you a load of confidence in terms of a breakout, because we've had a lot of fake outs here for dollar CAD. So if price could go take out that wick on the left, that will be a nice reassurance that, okay, this is probably the breakout now, and that we could go see some pullbacks and some continuations to the upside at that point. However, little did I know that we're going to have a massive gap this week and just completely obliterate that high and gap all the way to 1.475. And it's a pretty significant gap, because if I go to the weekly chart, I've been talking about this weekly level of resistance for quite a while. And as you can see, we actually just gapped straight over it. Have we created a new high past this point? Yes, we have. So it's been a really big move to the upside there for dollar CAD. We haven't poked this high since Jan 2016. So it's been a while. It's been a while since we had these prices, and I do expect price to actually potentially sell off pretty hard for dollar CAD, to be honest. Again, we could see a massive breakout, but because this is such a big level, anyone who is in any long-term dollar CAD buys, you can imagine this is a big profit target for a lot of big buys down at these prices here. A lot of them will probably be looking to secure gains around that high, and of course, a lot of high time frame sellers looking to jump into the trade as well. So I do think dollar CAD can see some retracement. The bigger move may still be to the upside if USD is going to keep its strength, especially if the DXY is going to push back to 113, 114. Then you probably are going to see dollar CAD continue its trend. But there may be some sells in the meantime. In terms of longs, I would like to see price come back, retest this range. I do think there could be a nice opportunity for a bounce. We have to be careful because there is a big level of resistance just above us. But I think this is still a nice area for some longs. But right now, we're definitely in some bearish territory where I do expect to see a bit of a reaction there, and possibly price to go fill that gap there. So, yeah, dollar CAD expecting some retracement. And since we hit some really big levels and create some new highs for a very, very long time. In terms of Aussie dollar, I'm pretty sure we took out the lows there for Aussie dollar. So again, Aussie dollar, I'm not really, it's difficult to short this one. I still do expect a lot more downside in the long term. Again, we got the COVID lows down here. And that's why I expect the Aussie dollar to be heading in the long term. Excuse me. So I'm still very, very bearish on this one. However, in terms of opportunities, it's a bit slim pickings right now. Because since we've taken out these lows, again, now's not the time for me to be jumping into any shorts. If I am going to be looking to short this one, I mean, it's a bit more of a range now since, again, we took at the highs there, took at the lows there. So the market is just a little bit more corrective now with Aussie dollar. The overall trend is still very much down. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of the clarity of the price action, how clean the trend is at these lows anyway, isn't really of high quality anymore. So if we could drop to the downside, see some new momentum come through, then some pullbacks could be looking good again. But at the moment, I'm not the biggest fan of Aussie dollar's price action. In fact, I probably do expect us to probably go and fill that gap there. Since we just pinched these lows, big wick to the downside, probably will come back and retest this area. It's a bit more of a range now at these lows here. So yeah, not the biggest fan of Aussie dollar price action. Still very bearish longer term. In terms of opportunities to short this one, not looking great, as opposed to some other USD pairs. That is. But yeah, Aussie dollar looks like it probably will potentially fill that gap and see a move to the upside there. New Zealand dollar, did we make new lows with this one? Yes, we did. So same situation here with New Zealand dollar as well. So we just about pinched the lows there after we pinched the highs there. So again, this is starting to form a bit more of a consolidation now rather than a continuation of a trend, which it could eventually be the continuation of a trend. We might consolidate for a few more days, maybe a few more weeks before eventually we do drop to the downside. But then that becomes the move I'm looking for. The sharp break to the downside, pullbacks and then shorts. That's what I'm looking for now. Getting involved in this area just looks a little bit too choppy, a bit too chaotic. I'm not really seeing much clarity in terms of momentum anymore right now with New Zealand dollar and Aussie dollar. So no longer really interested in these pairs here. But again, if we do respect the low there, probably a good chance we do push the upside to go and fill that gap. So that could be a nice opportunity to look at. Not really my type of trade. But I would imagine we probably do have a good chance to see some upside there for both of those currency pairs. In terms of gold, I haven't actually looked at gold yet. Okay, so gold's a bit of a push down and then a little bit of upside. So again, overall still very bullish for gold. I did say in my weekly analysis that the 27.20 level down here still looks like a good buy should price get there. But in terms of intraday price action, I'd probably keep an eye on this high here and the high here on the left as well for some buys. I'd probably look at more the hourly or the 30-minute time frame to get long. Didn't really retest that level well there, but potentially might still see another sell. That could end up being a nice little buy at some point later in the week. But again, in terms of price action for gold, very, very bullish. We have created all-time highs, so maybe gold is going to go for a big retracement at some point. And until we start taking out some of these high lows, that's when I will start to take that retracement a bit more seriously. At the moment in time, the market's still very consistent with these high lows. So in terms of the trend, in terms of momentum for gold right now, it's still very, very bullish until we start to see some heavy signs that, okay, that maybe gold is going to go for a big retracement now. Then we'll start to look at that. And at the moment, still a lot of momentum and probably we'll see price take out these highs pretty soon as well. In terms of silver, again, this is another one which I'm looking to long. However, price action is not quite there yet. Still looking very, very corrective as we approach this area here on the left. And I'm starting to fear potentially price may be looking at a correction for possibly a continuation like this, especially coming to that area. So I'm looking to buy silver with the expectation that we're coming back to the highs there. I'm being patient, waiting for the best time to take the position, especially with the target so high up. I don't need to rush into anything because there's a long way to go if we are going to hit my targets. At the moment, still very, very corrective. We've tapped into a strong area of supply. And if price is going to sell off, this is probably the time and place to do so. So I'm going to keep a close eye on silver, watch out for that opportunity because we could sell off. If we can start to see some price action above the high here at 32.3, that'll give me a lot more confidence that the buys are really going to stay here and we're probably going to push on. But because we're so corrective still, I know we had some nice momentum there at the end of last week, but it's still within the correctiveness of that channel there. So I'm not a big fan of that price action just yet for silver, but I definitely am looking for some longs back to the high. So if we can take up the high this week, that would be brilliant. And we're expecting more upside, trying to catch those higher lows. So yeah, that's pretty much it for USD. In terms of my bias, in terms of what I'm looking at, big gaps, a lot of movement. I'm still very bullish on the USD, so that's pretty much set the tone across most of the USD markets of what I'm looking to do. But some, of course, look a lot better than others, and that's where my focus will be. I'll go through that buying opportunity you mentioned, Philip, at 1.02229. Targets 1.05410. We'll take a look. We'll take a look at GJ as well, Dark Sean. Okay, just want to say hi. I'm on the train lose signal. Okay, no problem. Rex, what is up? Hope you're well. Wait for the DXY down to 108.93 or lost. Okay, we'll take a look at that as well. For our 1 daily time frame. Yeah, we'll take a look at dollar yen and euro yen as well. Yeah, it's pretty chaotic start to the week. Let me take a look at that euro USD position for Philip. So yeah, really big gap down euro, really big gap. Haven't seen a gap that big in a long time. So interesting stuff here. You said you're gonna buy from 1.0229, so that's around there-ish, and then your targets are 1.05410. Okay, looking for a very big move. 05410. Okay, pretty much to new highs there. Yeah, I'm pretty bearish in Euro USD, so I wouldn't be expecting a move like that. Like I said earlier, we might potentially go fill the gap and come back and retest some structure there for potentially another lower high before continuing. Formed a high over there, another one there. Could put a third one in, before a big drop to the downside, and that's kind of what I'll be hoping for. Not necessarily what I'll be expecting, but hoping for, because if we do push up, it gives me an opportunity to short closer to these areas and capitalize on a move back down to that low. So I'm pretty bearish with Euro USD. My expectation is that these lows will be taken out pretty soon, whether we just do that now or we push up first, then do that. That's what I'm expecting. Of course, I could be wrong. Potentially, we do see a big move to take out the highs there and go to hit your targets. I'm sure you have valid reasons for expecting such a move, but because of the overall trend of Euro USD in the higher time frames, the fact that we are still trading underneath these lows here as well does make me pretty bearish for Euro USD. And if price did take out these lows, so start trading above them and start giving some higher lows, then that's when I'll be starting to expect a bigger move to the upside and maybe a bit of a bullish trend there for Euro. But for now, the bearish trend is still in full flow, especially with this massive gap now. So yeah, I still do see more downside. Um, yeah, I still do see more downside. If you're looking for the buys, I think it's a nice place to buy. Or if price was to push back to the low, they're looking for a bit of a double bottom. That would be a nice place for a buy as well. But yeah, I'm still pretty bearish on Euro USD. I'm looking at the DXY here, and I do expect the dollar to keep pushing to the upside as well. This would be a nice place for a buy, but who knows if the dollar will get there. In fact, if the dollar does get there, then you probably would see some nice profit in your Euro trade. And from there, I would like to see some continuation, but I am expecting the dollar to go and take up the highs here pretty soon as well. So that's really my take there with the USD markets. I'll take a look at GJ. Actually, I'll go through the dollar whilst I'm on it right now for X. Waiting for DXY down to 108.93. Let me just clean up the chart. So you're looking for a move to 108.93. So that's around here. So you're waiting for a push to 108.93 or 108.43. That's about here-ish. Before further upside to 111.3 is at new highs, basically. Yeah, 111.3 is up there somewhere. We just had at the beginning of the tariff. Yeah. So yeah, of course, there's a lot of noise with Donald Trump and the tariff for Canada, and I wonder if that's caused all the movements. I know for CAD, of course, but we're seeing pairs like Aussie yen also gap as well. The yen pairs gap, so I wonder if that's the reason for that as well. Probably is, to be honest. But yeah, with DXY, I'm expecting more upside as well. I would love a correction to that area, to that 108.43 area. That would be very nice, because that would give me the correction in the euro, give me the correction in pound for some more shorts. So that's really what I'd want to see. But yeah, we'll see if we actually get that pullback. But yeah, expecting price to take up the highs there. I'm very much in agreement with you in terms of the 111.3 bias. I do think price can get there. Again, long term, I'm actually looking for price to get to 113.5. So, 111.3 is along the way. So I'm very bullish on USD as well, especially with that momentum there. So looking for pullbacks and then buys back to the highs, really the plan for this week. In terms of pound yen, we'll have a look at that one. We'll take a look at UJ and euro yen as well. But yeah, all the yen pairs gapped as well. Not really as big as the USD markets. Maybe not in terms of pips. Of course, there's a lot more pips there, and pound yen and the yen pairs in general, just in terms of like proportionality, big gaps in USD markets, which you don't see a lot. Yen pairs, of course, had a bit of fun as well. But yeah, pound yen did gap to the downside there. Kind of filled the gap halfway so far, because of course we opened here. So technically speaking, the gap was from the close there to there. So that's a pretty big gap. Let me see if I can measure that. So yeah, about 200 pip gap. That is huge. Imagine if you were intraday position, entry somewhere in there, stop loss underneath that wick there, and price gap there. You're losing 5, 6, 7 times of how much you risk there potentially. It depends what price the broker does fill you at, but it could be 5, 6, 7 times of what you're risking. So that's why intraday is always a bit tricky if you're going to hold over the weekend. Even if you're on profit, because you could have bought here, potentially had an entry here. Maybe you've trailed your stop loss to break even, but still price would have gapped here. So you were in profit on the weekend, but you end up taking a loss as the week opens. So that can happen to any position, whether you're swing or day, but especially if you're day trading, because you have a higher lot size on. So it's a bit more risky, especially with a very tight stop loss. This is a 200 pip drop. Imagine if you had a 20 pip stop loss. That's 10 times that stop loss there. So yeah, intraday positions, I wouldn't say you shouldn't hold over the weekend, but you just want to be 100% aware of what you could get into. Of course, gaps like this happen once every 6 months or once a year, really. For the USD market, it's probably once every 3 or 4 years, a gap that big. Of course, gaps happen all the time, but a gap of that size is very, very rare on Euro USD. Yen pairs do gap quite a bit, to be honest, and they can have some pretty big ones too. So you just have to be aware of that if you're going to look to hold over the weekend. As a swing trader, I would hold over the weekend as well. But again, naturally have bigger stops, lower lot size to accommodate for that. So it's not as much of a risk, but I can still be in I can still get my stop loss slipped as well. So that can still happen as well. But yeah, in terms of pound yen price action, still pretty bearish from pound yen overall. Again, looking at the bigger picture, really big moves to the downside. Still looking at this as a massive correction for a big drop here to take out these lows. So that's the longer term move. I'm looking for pound yen, but just a little bit awkward in terms of finding that entry for such a big swing in this area here. It would be much better if we're at the highs for sure. I did say in the weekend I do like some sell opportunities around the high here. So if price did push for a double top, I will be looking for some entries for a sell. And of course, if that didn't play out, then I'll look for the entries all the way back up here. And again, looking for that same big sell. At the moment, again, with pound yen, we are a bit corrected, but we are showing bearish structure here. The market is putting in lower lows and lower highs. So again, for pound yen, I'll suggest maybe we might go fill that gap and then see the lower high to push back down to try and keep up with these lower highs. So one over there, second, third, fourth, fifth, 6, 7 there as well. So that kind of fits into that kind of structure pretty well. Seeing the next lower high in that area, maybe coming back to retest some support and resistance in that zone as well, around 192. So yeah, the way I see pound yen heading right now is structure still looking pretty bearish. I'd fancy more downside. This is like a nice area of confidence for some shorts. Of course, we're looking pretty bearish right now, and maybe we do keep falling, but I would say in terms of good opportunity, especially on the hourly chart, it would be nice if you do see some upside, fill the gap, test that area of confidence as well, and try and catch that next lower high in that sequence, since we've been so consistent over the past few days with those lower highs. And then yeah, I would suggest either push back to the low there, or if you want to be slightly bit more aggressive, you do have the low there to target as well. But yeah, in terms of direction, very, very bearish on pound yen. Big gap to the downside. We might go fill that before continuing, but overall, the direction in my book does look like we're going to continue bearish here. So yeah, expecting a lot more downside. Let me quickly go through the indices first, and then I'll take a look at the rest of the yen pairs, because they've had some pretty big gaps as well. So I'm pretty sure the indices gapped as well. Yep, US 30 big gap to downside. US 30 was so close to making new highs, but then it just rejected and then it absolutely dumped as well. So it's a bit awkward right now for US 30, I would have to say. Again, in terms of the overall trend, it's very much up. But in terms of finding a good buy, that's where the difficulty and the awkwardness does come around. I still like the buys from this high here. This was the high that gave us that new low, which we broke through pretty aggressively. So I think naturally that's still a nice place for a buy. Would I anticipate price forming a high low to continue all the way back to the highs there? I think that's a pretty big ask. But I would at least anticipate a bounce from that level. So I think that's still a nice place for a buy, 43,300. So if you are looking for a bit more of a swing position, that would be a nice place for a long. But in terms of current momentum, it is pretty bearish right now with US 30. Again, we may look to go and fill that gap before expecting maybe another reaction. So something like that would look good intraday level. But of course, that'll still take some time to retrace there. But yeah, if I'm looking at US 30 intraday shorts, I would say around 44,600 looks good because not only do we fill the gap, we come back to test some healthy areas of support, which I would expect to see a reaction, especially with such a strong impulse, such a strong drop to the downside. We naturally will probably see a correction for another drop later on. So I do fancy a bit more downside for US 30 there. So yeah, if you're looking for shorts, I'll probably wait for price to come a little bit higher. I definitely would wait for price to come a little bit higher. And in terms of longs, 43,300 looks good. In terms of looking for a swing back to the highs, I think that might be a bit optimistic. So I would say look to secure gains along the way or trail a stop. That's up to you. I think that's still a healthy place for a long. In terms of NAS 100, I'm not a big fan of this one anymore. We did fill the gap last week, so we did do that. But we created an even bigger gap this week. So last week we had the gap here. Price was very bearish. Then we went and filled the gap just before the weekly candle close, and then we created another one this week. So overall, NAS 100 just very choppy price action. Equal highs up there, yeah, more or less equal lows down here. And the market has just been consolidating, fluctuating between those two levels. So I would just say treat this as a range, look to buy low, sell high. That way you can at least get a decent stop loss, a safe stop loss, below support, below areas of past wicks. Of course, above areas of past wicks as well if you're looking to short. And that way you can kind of maximize your profit and loss as well, because if you do get stopped out, you can keep your risk pretty minimal. If it does play out, you could be looking at a massive swing back to the high there. So risk reward does add up pretty well there. I'll probably focus on the longs more so because shorts worry me. Because if I do get a short here, I'm kind of thinking, okay, is price potentially going to break out and continue the trend? Whereas if I do get a long here, of course, we could fail and break to the downside. But I know that if the trend does continue, that's in my direction. And just naturally trading in terms of direction of the trend is just something that has a lot more confluence than going against it. So I'll be more focused about the longs here, down around 27.50. And of course, we've got the gap there to fill, which would be nice as well. If price could push back down, at least go fill that gap as well this week. And we'll see what price can do. But it is just pretty much a range there for US 100 now, NAS. Again, long term, still expecting the highs here to be taken out. But yeah, we need to break out that range first. Excuse me. Okay, Rex, you got caught on some nice gaps as well. Those who just drink my coffee and observing the whole day. Okay, that's a nice place to be in when the gaps are in your favor. GG analysis perfect. Once I see that and indicators align, I'm in. Nice. Yeah, I like it as well. I do think GJ is going to have a nice continuation to the downside. Some nice intraday price action as well. So just looking for the next low high and then some more shorts. What's up, Ninad? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're well. Good morning. Interesting day of the markets. Holy one, even though I would have initially taken the move, that's just gone. But yes, the line's still in. Yeah, of course, if you still get a good opportunity, you're looking to take it, unless maybe, for whatever reason you might not want to in terms of risk. But if risk is all all checked out and all fine, and you're happy to take it, I say go for it. A good trade is a good trade at the end of the day, and you want to take as much of them as possible. Of course, as possible. I'm not saying overtrade, but you know what I mean. Anyway, we'll go through the whole yen pair. So we'll go through UJ, Euro Yen as well. And we'll take a look at the JPY basket as well. But yeah, really crazy price action. Let me go through. Oh, didn't want to click there. Let me go through S&P 500 quickly whilst I'm on the indices, and then we'll go through the yen pair. So yeah, big gap for this one as well. Again, the price action is not looking as neat and tidy as it once was. Again, not a bad place to long, to be honest. Nice area where buyers have been holding pretty well. We saw a really healthy rejection there. Second one there as well. It looks like we might get a third, potentially go fill their gap as well. So not a bad buy. I'd be a bit wary because we did form a lower high here, so we didn't quite have enough energy to make a new high. It'd be a little bit better if we did. We might do something like this and put another little high and drop again. So I would be a bit wary of that for S&P. I mean, overall, to be honest, the market is incredibly flat, more or less sideways between that high and that low there. So yeah, price action is not looking that great anymore for the indices. I'll still be overall bullish for them, but they might still have some sells to look for. So S&P correction might be a nice drop there as well. Same thing with US 30. But not a big fan of the price action. Terry, no, I do not understand. I don't know what that is. I have no idea what that is. Anyway, I'm gonna go through the yen pair. So start with dollar yen, euro yen as well, and we'll go through the rest of them. So yeah, dollar yen, I've been looking to long actually. I've been looking to buy this one. It's the only yen pair which I'm actually still pretty bullish on. Again, purely looking at the higher time frame, still seeing continuation with the higher highs and higher lows. So long term, I'm still looking for a push back to the high. Of course, I'm saying that for a pinch of salt because if the other yen pairs have really big sell-offs, then the chances are dollar yen is probably going to do that as well, despite USD being strong. But I'm pretty bullish on dollar, and if dollar can keep up that strength, maybe we do see that continuation with USD JPY. But it's not quite ready yet in terms of my entries. I said last week I wanted price to spike through the low here first, give me a shift momentum afterwards, nice bullish engulfing candle. Then I'll be looking for entries. We did come into a nice area of confluence. So we had this area here on the left here, really strong move to the upside. And of course, we had that 0.5 fib confluence as well. If I draw it in from the low to the high, you can see we spiked into the 50 there. So really nice area of confluence. And that is kind of where I'm looking for my opportunity. So we did get there well. However, in terms of the price action, didn't quite fit the plan. So that's why I didn't find any trades last week. But if we do come back down again, and I see something that does look good, I will look to hop in and see what I can do. And if everything goes well, we'll look to swing it back to the high here at 158.551. And everything goes very well, I'll be looking to hold on to that high there. But yeah, in terms of market structure, still seeing higher highs and higher lows here for dollar yen. So in terms of direction, it is pretty straightforward for me. It's just about finding a good entry to participate in this move and see if we can swing it back to the high there. But that is still very much the plan at play. But yeah, still looking bearish on the intraday level. So need to see some really sufficient rejection here for me to be triggered into a trade. In terms of euro yen, pretty bullish on, pretty bearish on this one. Sorry, we gapped down, but at the same time broke through pretty strong levels of support. And this was the bonus pair last week. I was talking a lot about this on the weekly analysis. So I said if price can break through this support level, do it with some momentum as well, I'll be looking to short euro yen. We kind of did that with the gap. Of course, in terms of momentum, I was more talking about some big impulsive candlesticks, not necessarily a gap, but hey, that's what we got. It's a pretty strong break as well. So there's a good chance euro yen could be headed back down to this low now at 156.5. Pretty much a consolidation in this area here. And now looks like we are breaking through. We've got these lower highs, 1, 2, 3. Now support's giving way. It's kind of like we had this descending triangle pattern, and now prices, made its mind up that it wants to break lower. So looking at pullbacks and more downside. But I would suggest that the better entries for Euro Yen are probably still with the intraday level. I think 4 hour in terms of risk reward might not be the best. But again, if price was to push up, fill a good part of that gap, maybe come back and retest this low here, that would be nice. Find some entries off the back of that. And yeah, at least target the low there. But I do think we can get to that swing low back down at 156.6. So yeah, very, very bearish in Euro Yen as well. Again, higher time frames, expecting a really big move to the downside long term for Euro Yen. Really strong impulse here in July. This to me looks like a big correction, just like GJ, just like CAD Yen and other yen pairs, which we'll get through. Expecting a big continuation to take out that kind of channel there and a push down. And of course, we still do have this very large head and shoulder pattern left over there, head, right shoulder. Now expecting a big drop there for Euro Yen. So the way I see it, Euro Yen's likely going to break to the downside, and it's my plan, my aim to see if I can find some shorts to get involved. At least one of the yen pairs, doesn't have to be Euro Yen specifically, but I do think there's a lot more downside for this one. So a nice intraday opportunity would be if we can push back up. I know we're looking pretty bearish right now with that candle close, and we might just spill over. But now is not really the best time to be finding entries anyway, as we approach that low there. So if you could push back, see a lower high, maybe retest that low also at it as well. I think that'll be a nice place to short, stop loss above the high, and see if we can take advantage of that swing. In terms of CAD Yen as well, this one gapped to the downside too. Pretty much all the yen pairs had gaps. The dollar yen gap? No, not really. It did gap there a little bit, but very, very small in comparison to everything else. So yeah, dollar yen didn't really gap there, at least not much anyway. But CAD Yen, we did have a bit of a gap for this one. As we can see there, big move to the downside, actually breaking through the lows here as well. So for CAD Yen, I said on the weekly analysis, again, if we could see some really strong momentum breaking through these lows here as well, we're looking at corrections for a lot more downside. If I go to the daily chart, again, similar to Euro Yen, we've got a big head and shoulder pattern at play. Left shoulder there, you got the head over there, right shoulder there as well. This to me looks like a big bear flag, so impulse, correction, and now I'm expecting a big impulse to the downside. So in my book, CAD Yen is likely to spill over to the downside as well. In terms of shorts, I'm looking for entries at these lows here. Now that we've broken through that support, let's keep up the momentum. I have to say, it's not looking as neat and tidy as I wanted it to, but if we can maybe show some more momentum on another bearish leg, I will look for some shorts, possibly on the retest of that low there. So that's kind of what I'm looking at, but I need some development before I do start to look for some entries for this one as well. But it's a similar pattern to Euro Yen. We gap down, broke support, so kind of looking for a pullback of that for some more downside. And then longer term, expecting these wick lows to be taken out. So very, very bearish in CAD Yen as well. Very bearish in Euro Yen. Again, in terms of the higher time frame structure, it's pretty much the same thing. Yeah, it is standing low for some reason. I think it's just purely because of USD strength. To be honest, USD just been so strong that it's kept itself up. Because of course USD's been stronger than Euro, it's been stronger than pound, stronger than CAD. So it's just held its ground for some reason. So yeah, as long as that stays true, then I will be looking to buy dollar yen. Of course, the moment that changes, I'll be bearish on the pair as well. Okay, take care. Okay, be away for a few days. Okay, no problem, man. We'll see you guys. Well, we'll see you when I see you. But take care, man. Have a good one. So yeah, that's kind of my take on CAD Yen. If you guys are enjoying the stream, by the way, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It does really help out. And of course, make sure you do hit the bell so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. But yeah, CAD Yen, if that can break to the downside as well, see some momentum, I'll be looking for pullbacks, possibly on the retest of that low. And again, long-term targets to take out that wick low down there as well. In terms of the Aussie yen and New Zealand yen, I think these guys, yeah, they're just about gapped below support as well. So a lot of support's been broken here for the yen pairs with these gaps. Let's see if it stays broken, because of course we could break to the upside. What's up, Lighton? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing good. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, I'm looking to see if we can stay gapped to the downside. Of course, we could retrace and stuff, but I don't want price to be, of course, shooting to the upside now and do something like that, because that would mean we've got a big fake out and probably going to see a push back to the other end of the range, back to 98.795. So we've gapped underneath support, which is good. Let's see if we can keep it that way, remain underneath support, keep it as resistance, and we could be on for a big move. But again, in terms of the bigger time frame, in terms of what I'm expecting price to do, again, in a range where 50-50, price could break up, it could break down. So really, you kind of want to be open to both scenarios happening. If price does clear the high of the range, what's the plan? If price goes below the range, what's the plan? For me, long term, I'm expecting price to take out this wick low. Again, really massive impulse to downside in July there. Now I'm looking at this as a correction of that for a big move to the downside and the continuation of that momentum. So I'm expecting price to take out the low there, but should we break to the upside of the range, I'm looking for a push back to the high first, and then I'm looking for the continuation. So either which way, I've got a plan. If we do break to the downside here, then yeah, I'm just looking for a trend back to the lows. If you do break to the upside, I'm looking for a trend back to the high and then the big short. But like I said, we have broken the low of the range there. So I wonder, is this the start of the breakout? Is price going to continue, or is it going to break back in? There's only one way to find out. Wait and see. But should we stay holding that as resistance and see some nice momentum, I will be looking for some lower lows and lower highs to participate in, find some entries, and then hopefully write it down. Long-term targets back at that low, but I might take 2 or 3 trades. Might just not just one trade, which I hold. Might be 2 or 3 positions, which look good to get into. But that is what I'm looking for Aussie yen. Not really interested if price does break back inside the range. I'll just wait for the next breakout, really. So yeah, Aussie yen expecting a lot more downside there as well. New Zealand yen, pretty much the same thing as well with this one. If I head back to the daily chart, so again, massive drop there last year in July. Looking for us to take out the wick low here as well. And if we do break to the upside of the range, I'm looking for price to go and retest this high here first. So a big breakout, retest the high, and then we get the sell. Or price just breaks the downside, which looks like it's doing now, and we just get that follow through to the low. Either which way, this low is pretty likely to be taken out at some point in time here. So yeah, pretty bearish on New Zealand yen as well. It does look like price is breaking to the downside, so let's see if we can keep it that way. Might see price, potentially feel a bit of the gap and retest, but more or less, if we can stay below, we're looking for shorts, lower highs, maybe on the retested structure. And then, of course, targets back down at 83.1, or pretty much 83 on the dot. So yeah, Aussie yen, New Zealand yen, both pretty bearish. Both have been stuck in a range for a while. I haven't really been interested in the price action. But now it looks like we are gapping to the downside and breaking out these ranges. So if we can keep that up, I'm expecting some momentum to the downside and some shorts as well. No problem. What's with the gaps and what do they mean to ask? Good question. Well, I think it's just to do with the tariff, Trump and Canada. I'm not too sure if that's the entirety of the reason, because you're seeing yen pairs and uncorrelated markets to CAD also gap as well. So I'm not too sure about that. Maybe it's just a ricochet. But in terms of the technicals, gaps do have a pretty high chance of filling. So what I'm kind of looking for, and we'll go take a look at some of the USD marks in a second. What I'm kind of looking at is price filling some of those gaps and then continuing in the direction that we gapped in for most of them. So yen pairs possibly fill some of the gaps, more downside. USD pairs filling some of the gaps, more downside. CHF pairs filling some of the gaps, then more downside. We haven't got the CHF pairs yet, but I'll go through that in a moment. But yeah, that's mostly what I'm expecting. But if you have a certain pair or certain market that you want me to take a look at, just let me know. Put it in the chat and I'll take a look. Yeah, gaps fill most of the time. And the only tricky thing is, at what point do they fill? Sometimes they fill a week later. Sometimes they fill straight away. So you know, you have to be not just eager looking to buy or sell just because there's a gap, because sometimes they don't fill straight away. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for New Zealand as well. In terms of Swiss yen, then I'll take a look at the JPY basket. So yeah, this one, nice push downside. See, this one's actually filled the gap. We gapped the downside here, and we've already filled the gap straight away. So gap there. I mean, price closed there, so it didn't fill it to the pip, but you would say the gap is filled there, at least from the wick there to the open of this week is filled. So CHF JPY is going to fill the gap. Many other markets have barely made a dent filling the gap. Euro USD hasn't really shown any upside yet. So this one's done it straight away, but Euro USD might take a while or it might not even fill. So yeah, that's always to take into consideration there. But in terms of the bigger move for CHF JPY, again, looking for a push to low here. I've been really happy with the trend here, to be honest. It looked very, very corrective a few days ago over here, but we saw a really impressive break to the downside. Now it looks like the trend's really starting to pick up some momentum. Had some equal highs there. Nice drop, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, so on and so forth. It looks like we're about to take out these lows here. Now, with CHF JPY, I do expect to see a lot of downside in the near future. So I'm not so bothered about trying to get into a trade now, especially when we're coming back into a big daily low, because I'm looking for a really big swing. I do think price can really dump over the next few weeks, few months, really. And I think that's the same case for a lot of the yen pairs. So as we approach the low here, now's not the time and place for me to be looking to short. But if you can break through, see some bigger pullbacks, some lower highs, maybe the next one in the sequence, that'll be something I'll be looking at personally to get involved. And I do still see price at least pushing back underneath its prior all-time high. So if we go to the monthly chart, this is the prior all-time high for Swiss yen back in 1979, believe it or not. I do think price is going to push towards that area in the excuse me, the next few weeks, few months maybe. So that's what I'm expecting price to get to. So if I can find a pullback between now and then, that's basically what I'm looking for. But yeah, it looks like price is likely going to push back into that low. Let's see if we can break through and then talk about some bigger pullbacks shortly afterwards. But yeah, it looks like we'll probably see some more downside here as well. You're interested in dollar CAD's gap? Okay, we'll take a look in that one a second. I'll go for Euro Pound as well, Himanshu. I'll just take a look at the JPY basket really quickly, and then we'll go through those pairs as well. If I have missed out any other pairs, let me know in the chat. But okay, so JPY basket breaking to the upside. This is quite significant, because I said this is a big level here for the JPY basket, whether price breaks it or not. So if we do break it, then it does look like we'll probably start heading back to these highs now, and see a push all the way back up to here, which is around 73.37. If we did respect it, then we're probably going to come push back to the low. And it looks like that's not happening. We've broken to the upside, pretty strong candle there. So if we can keep this up, I do think the next target now for the JPY basket is back to 68.06. And the key takeaway from this is that if the JPY basket does push up, the yen pairs are going to push down most likely. So dollar yen, CAD yen, pound yen, you can see the basket there. Those pairs are likely going to push in the opposite direction, because it means that JPY is going to be strong. So the likely chance is that those pairs will push down. So with that break, I would fancy a push to these highs now. So yeah, I think we'll probably see some more downside in the yen pairs. So especially if you're intraday looking for pullbacks, keep shorting. I think that's definitely going to be the play for now. But yeah, really looking bearish or bullish, I should say, for the JPY basket. And we could be getting ready for a big move back to 7,200 there for this one. Because again, for this one as well, I'm looking at this as a big impulse, massive correction, for a big impulse later on. Yeah, took CGFJY this morning at 116. At 116 pips currently. Okay, nice. Yeah, it's looking really good. It was a nice pullback. CGFJY filled the gap very, very quickly and came back into resistance, and now that one's just on its way down. One of the few yen pairs that have actually filled the gap already and continued. So yeah, it's probably going to push back to the 168,500 mark pretty soon as well. I'd imagine that's where your target is probably, Holy One, back at 168.5, or maybe the wick low here at 168, somewhere around there. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. I can have a look now. Okay, yeah. Ooh, really nice entry. Okay, so is your targets has your targets been hit already? 9 pips from target. Okay, so your target's roughly around there somewhere. Yeah, because I'm using a different broker too, so it looks a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, 9 pips from target's probably gonna hit that possibly before the stream's over. Okay, so let me go through Euro Pound and then I'll take a look at USD CAD as well. So yeah, with Euro Pound, again, bit of a gap for this one as well. So many markets gap, which is why it's a bit crazy. Because you'd think it would probably just be USD CAD, but yeah, we're seeing yen pairs, Euro Pound as well, gap as well. So we've seen some big moves. Of course, we haven't got to crypto yet. Been some big moves down crypto as well. So it's been a volatile. I think we're going to see a lot of movement. To be fair, with Trump in power, because I remember last time markets were very, very volatile, especially whenever he did anything, to be honest. So I feel like we're going to see a lot more movement in the market, a bit more chaos, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, it's 100% a bad thing. If you know what you're doing, then it could be a good thing. Of course, not everything's going to go your way. Not every gap's going to be for you. Some will be against you. But again, as long as you're managing risk, that's the most important thing. But anyway, Euro Pound has come back into a really nice level of resistance, now turned support. And I said at the start of the weekend on my weekly analysis as well, I'm looking to buy from it. So I'm waiting to see how we develop here. At the moment, last 4-hour candle close pretty bearish, so no entry signal for myself just yet. But if things do look good, place some more wicks, see a nice bullish engulfing candle, I will look for some entries here. I would expect us to go and fill that gap there at least. We could be on for a pretty big move to the upside, potentially to swing back to that high. I will be looking to lock in gains along the way. I did say in the weekly analysis as well, keep an eye on some of these areas here because I wouldn't just hold on to a trade from here all the way to the high, especially in a pair like Euro Pound. I would look to lock in some gains along the way. 0.838 looks like a good area. 0.841 looks like a good area as well. I think those are some smart places to look to secure some profit. But I am looking for a big bounce here for Euro Pound, especially because we're still in that really big monthly level of support. So if I expand, you can see where we're trading right now. Really big level of support here. And I do expect price to bounce to the upside here from a monthly standpoint. So if we do bounce, you expect support to hold, and we're coming to a really nice level of support now. So that's why I do expect to see some upside, but it might not necessarily take us all the way back to the high, which is why we're looking to manage that trade along the way. But yeah, that definitely is the plan there for Euro Pound. Yeah, exactly, Hollywood. The gaps are everywhere. Literally, so many markets gapped. Crypto indices. Actually, I haven't gone through many commodities. I think oil gapped. To be fair, pretty much every FX pair gapped as well, some way and another. And some big moves, especially in crypto as well. Big moves. So that's what I'm saying. As this new volatility, I think it could last a while with Trump in power, and it could get interesting real quick. So yeah, exciting times. I'll take a look at dollar CAD. So dollar CAD, massive gap to the upside. And again, I think there could be some good buys in this one as we approach back towards the range, back to 1.447. I think that's a really nice place for a buy. So the high of the range there. At the moment, dollar CAD is testing some big levels of resistance on the weekly chart. We've actually created some new highs as well, which we haven't done for a very long time. So you can see we've got massive resistance over here, twice over there. As you can see, we spiked through. And this was a high that we created back in 2016. In fact, we haven't traded at this price specifically. Um, where's the... Oh, let me mark that so you can see where the last time we're at this price. Let me make that white. So the last time we were trading at this price was back in 2003. 2003. I was still a baby. So yeah, you haven't been at these prices in a long time. So it's a pretty big move for dollar CAD, taking out major resistance. Um, so number one, I do expect to see some type of reaction here to the downside, most likely. And probably that gap fill as well. So we gap to the upside, testing that area there. I do think price is likely going to probably push back down and fill that gap. But at the same time, it's still a nice place for a buy. There's still a lot of bullish momentum in the market as well. So I do think a test of that range does still make a load of sense, even if it's just to buy it back to where we came from and call it a day there. That could be a nice swing position to look at. So yeah, for dollar CAD, this is still something I'm eyeing up. If you're looking for shorts, I think now's a good time to be looking to sell as well. But buys look good, definitely a lot further down. What's up, Jay Smith? Hope you're well. Yes, I will take a look at dollar CHF for you. And the buy signal Friday for BTC, then fell miserably again. I don't believe crypto respect my indicators, lol. They're just at different. Yeah, of course, they're not as liquid as other markets as well. So in terms of the purity of the price action, technical analysis, it won't be as good as, for example, Euro USD, because again, to get technical analysis to work very well, you need the most participants as possible, because technical analysis is the analysis of how market participants react and trade and buy and sell and this and that, their fear, their greed. That's how you get consistency with patterns. So the more people you have, the more pure, the more consistent the patterns will be in the market. The less people you have, the more erratic it will be, the less predictable it will be, just by default, really. So the more people it is, the better for technical analysis, which is why FX is such a great market to trade from a technical point of view, because it's the most traded market. Euro USD, things like 7 trillion a day or something like that. Very liquid. So price action is going to be very pure there. And Bitcoin and other smaller cryptos, less people. Not that you can't use technical analysis, you can. In terms of the consistency, you have a bit more luck with a market like Euro USD, Pound USD, which is heavily traded. But yeah, if Bitcoin's not playing ball with your indicators, then yeah, just leave it alone. Especially if you have markets which are playing ball, which are working well. Trading is all about maximizing what's doing well right now, and what's not doing well, pretty much discarding it or finding a way to trade it. And if that's taking too much energy, just focus on the ones that are doing well, really. But yeah, with dollar CAD, I'll look for that retracement and some buys later on. So yeah, that's kind of my take, but massive resistance, and we've just spiked through. In terms of dollar CHF, so I'm bullish on USD, but I'm not necessarily bullish on dollar CHF until we break through resistance, because right now we're coming to some really big weekly level of resistance, and it wouldn't make much sense for me to look to buy into this, especially with the way I trade on the 4-hour chart. If you're intraday, sure, you can take some smaller buys here because you're not going to be holding the position for a while, especially overnight. You're in and out the trade, take your pips, and then run. But for me, I'll be looking to hold trades on the 4-hour chart, which could last a few days, multiple weeks potentially. I wouldn't want to be holding a trade for that long in an area of resistance because there's a good chance we're probably going to reject it sooner or later. So what I want to see is price actually break and close above this to give me the confidence that the breakout is on. Especially with my USD bias, I'll be a lot more confident to buy dollar CHF after that has happened and looking for a lot more upside. Obviously, the next big level is probably around here, around 0.94. So that's probably where I expect price to get to next once we do clear this resistance here. So I do still see a lot more upside for dollar CHF once this level is cleared. However, we haven't cleared it yet. Price could still roll over, etc. So I need to stay patient. But it is another dollar pair. I'm very, very bullish on the DXY, on USD. So I do think we probably will actually break resistance here. But I don't want to be the one to find that out with a trade. So equally, we're back at resistance now. We've left a big wick. Could see price, go fill the gap there first before potentially pushing back up again. So just not a smart place to be buying into right now, especially as someone who's looking to enter on the 4-hour chart. But yeah, I do expect us to break the highs here and then pull back and then continue. And then this will be something I'll be looking to trade for dollar CHF. So that's pretty much my analysis. If you're looking to short, it makes sense. Back at resistance could be a nice short to at least go fill the gap there. So that could be something you're looking at. In terms of a buy, at least following that trend, you do want price to start to break through that. Then we can look to use that to our advantage, find some entries on the retest, and look to buy back up as well. So why do we get so much volatility in USD pairs correlation? You mean why do we get so much volatility between different USD pairs? I don't understand your question. Well, in terms of the USD majors, if USD is volatile, then all the USD majors will be volatile together because they're all affected by USD, of course. In terms of why we got the gaps and the big moves right now, that's because of Trump's tariff in Canada. At least I think that's the reason for all the other markets. Of course, Canada, CAD and USD, but of course we're seeing movement on Euro and Pound and JPY as well. So I think that's just a bit of collateral damage there. But yeah, I mean, yeah, all USD pairs, of course, if USD is very bullish or very bearish, it's going to affect all those other markets. So they'll all be doing the same thing in terms of their reaction because, of course, they're correlated. But yeah, I think keeping an eye on Trump and what he's doing, especially from a risk standpoint, is probably pretty sensible this time around because this is it's big news, but I wouldn't say it's the biggest news possible. And I do think we'll have other big statements from Trump as well. So yeah, this could be the start of something in terms of, because I remember last time in power, Trump was even Trump's tweets would move the market. It was like that was a news event in itself. So it's it's going to be interesting this year. But USD markets, they're all correlated. So if USD is up, USD is down, it's going to affect all of them together. So yeah, dollar CAD, that is dollar CHF, sorry. That's kind of what I'm looking for this one. Could be some nice trades, but we do need to see price clear that resistance first. And then we'll look for some opportunities shortly afterwards. No problem, Jay Smith. Happy to help. Okay, so I'll go through some of the CAD pairs, and I'll go through some CHF pairs as well, because I haven't looked at them yet. And CAD is still pretty interesting as well. So New Zealand CAD is one I've been looking to short. Very, very messy price action, to be honest. As we opened up for the market, of course, we had the big gap to the upside here. I was going to say gap to the downside, but this one gapped up. So we gapped up here. had a bit of a wick to the upside, and then we came down pretty hard. So I'm looking to short this one. And again, I was debating an entry on that candle there, but it's a little bit too big. I think we got about a 1 to 2.3 back into the low there. So I was looking to see if I can refine the entry here for New Zealand CAD, but it's still just about respecting my channel. As long as we stay within that, I am keeping that bearish bias. Again, we've got these numerous lower highs here on the left. One over there, second there, just about third, and anticipating a fourth for a push back to the low. So the plan is, if we can keep up with that trend line, I do think price will eventually sell off. Yeah, the clarity of the price action isn't particularly great right now. Again, New Zealand CAD isn't normally great, but it does have some moments where it does look pretty clean. Right now, it is pretty messy. I'm not a big fan of it right now, but I am anticipating another drop. Just waiting for the price action to fit my criteria a little bit better. Aussie CAD, kind of same boat as well. Again, not looking great. Big gap to the upside. We did fill that already. So some gaps are already filled, to be honest, pretty quickly. Some are nowhere near. So again, with Aussie CAD as well, looking for another lower high. This one has actually broke out the channel, I think. Yeah, so this one's not really playing ball right now. But if we can get back below, I do expect to see a big drop there for Aussie CAD as well, to take out these lows and continue a lot further, and possibly take out that wick as well. In fact, in the long term, I do think we'll probably get all the way down here, but we'll see if we can respect that trend line first before we start talking about that bigger move again. But yeah, Aussie CAD still pretty bearish, still looking for another lower high. This looks like a big double top to me, and we could be looking to sell off from that. Same thing with New Zealand CAD as well. With Euro CAD, again, we've had a big wick to the upside from last week, and then a bit of upside as well from this week, but that gap we had pretty minimal, and price went and filled that already. I have talked about the resistance just above us here for EuroCAD as a level we could short from. I'm looking to see if we can get a deeper test of that area before looking to short, because we left a big wick, but I do think that wick will probably fill. So I'm looking for a bit more upside there for EuroCAD before we do anticipate some downside. And then from there, we could be looking at a pretty big move here for a big sell. So back into the lows here at around 1.455. So I'm pretty bearish in EuroCAD as well. I do think there's more downside long term, because we're just fluctuating in this range here, to be honest. So now that we're at the top end of the range, if price is going to respect this, then we are likely to push back down to the lower end, or at least the middle anyway, which is probably, let me draw the fib out. So roughly speaking, middle's around here. So that's kind of where I'm expecting price to get to at least. But yeah, in terms of opportunities to short, I would want to see a bit more upside, take out that wick high there, and then look for some downside. Pound CAD is in the same boat as well. So you can see how choppy price is here. Looks like we're approaching resistance now, and I do want to see price push into that, take out that wick high. But again, still, oh, we've actually done that, sorry. Pound CAD has actually done that. I forgot about the gap there. We've already taken out the wick high down the left. So now I do think Pound CAD could see a bit of a reaction there. In terms of Pound CAD, we are kind of ranging as well. So we got equal highs over there, equal lows. I did talk about this one quite a lot in my weekly analysis. About we can see a push probably halfway as well, which is again coming into that level more or less. So I would say targets around there this week make a load of sense. So yeah, Pound CAD pretty bearish, New Zealand CAD pretty bearish, Euro CAD pretty bearish as well, and Aussie CAD pretty bearish as well. So yeah, I mean, it's been very interesting with these gaps, I must say. CHF pairs had a lot of gaps as well. And again, I don't really look to trade don't really look to trade gaps most of the time, because I think in terms of trading gaps, you probably want to be in the lower time frames to do that. Because with the entries I look to take, especially on the 4-hour chart, you know, gaps are not going to really give me much profit, because gaps are not really big enough. For example, let's say if I get into a trade here on that candlestick, you know, stop loss down here, you know, the gap there for it to fill, it's at 0.71. You really want to refine your entry to the lower time frames to actually make that worthwhile. Doesn't have to be anything ridiculous, but just at least more than 1-to-1 at least. So very rarely gaps are something I look to trade. I do know that in general gaps, at least from my experience, do fill majority of the time, whether they fill instantly in terms of they open up and they just go fill straight away, which you've seen some pairs do, like CHF, JPY, and Aussie CAD. And then on the other hand, you've got some gaps that don't fill till like a week or two later. They'll push down and then eventually push back to go and fill them. And some gaps, it could be months till they fill again. But most of the time, gaps do fill. So you can use that in terms of creating an edge, but it's not really something I look for. I think it's a bit more of an intraday strategy. But yeah, in terms of New Zealand CHF as well, very clean bearish trend as well, which I'm looking to short. The only downside about trading New Zealand CHF to the downside is that the swap cost can be a little bit hefty, especially if you get caught in a bit of a consolidation. It can be a bit of annoying because you're holding on to a negative swap trade, and especially because CHF pairs, they do tend to chop around quite a lot. So if you don't catch it right, it can be a bit of a pain. But I am expecting a lower high and some momentum to kick in pretty soon. Long term, I do expect this wick low to be taken out pretty soon there for New Zealand CHF as well. We have been seeing pretty consistent lower highs here. So basically looking for that to continue. It looks like we're forming another one there as well. And if that's the case, this is our next target. And then eventually that low there too. But in terms of shorting, it's been a bit difficult to find a clear entry for a short. That's been my main conundrum with New Zealand CHF. I haven't really found a good entry for it. In fact, this is not a bad area for an entry, probably on the hourly chart. I drop to the hourly, maybe even 30-minute might be a bit better. But if you could see price kind of come back, struggle to break through that level, I think that's a nice place for a short. We may fill the gap there. That could still be a nice place to short as well. Let's say if we do fill the gap back to the high, I think that would be a nice place to short as well. But again, the plan is to take it back into the low. Higher time frames are bearish, monthly, weekly, daily, all higher time frames are pointing down. You're always going to maximize the probability of a trade playing out if you're trading in the direction of the larger trend. Just on average, more trades will fail and more trades will win, than fail if you're trading the direction of a trend. So yeah, New Zealand CHF, looking for more downside there as well. Again, in terms of the entries I'm looking to take, it might be a little bit too, in terms of the risk reward, it might not be something I'm looking for, but if you can drop to the hourly or even lower, might find some nice opportunities there as well. Aussie CHF is definitely one I'm waiting for as well. I'm waiting to see if we can break through the daily support level, which I think we're going to do pretty soon, to be honest. I do expect us to break to the downside and take out the lows there, especially with New Zealand CHF falling. I do think Aussie CHF is going to catch up and take some shorts with that one as well. Okay, yeah, I remember last week you said you're looking to short New Zealand CHF as well. Anyone? But only two confirmations. Need to drop loads more before I can enter. Okay, I see. Yeah, so if it does clean up, could be some nice trades there with New Zealand CHF. I do like that one to the downside. Aussie CHF, I like it as well. Again, Aussie CHF, New Zealand CHF, very, very similar pairs. So if New Zealand CHF does take a big drop to the downside, 9 times out of 10, you can see Aussie CHF do the exact same thing as well. So we've got a long way to go to get back to this low. This is the daily chart, by the way. So I do expect us to eventually get back to that low there. But of course, first things first, we do need to break through this level of support to give me the green flag that says, okay, support's broken. Now looking for the corrections and more downside there. And then those are the opportunities I'm looking to take back to the low and actually back to this low here on the left as well, because this is actually our all-time low. And I was actually expecting us to go and take out that low when we had this big wick, but we just missed it. So now I do think price is going to go crush 2 birds with 1 stone and just take them both out pretty soon. So the plan is looking for some shorts back down to those lows and hopefully find some entries and some pullback somewhere. But let's see if we can break support first. Hopefully we can do it in the next few days. In terms of pound CHF, still waiting for the breakout of the consolidation as well. and this one's taking its sweet time. So again, it's been a tough watch for pound CHF, but I'm expecting a big breakout for this one. And if that's the case, I do think we can swing our way all the way back to this low here at 1.07876. Again, I've spoken about this many times, but we've got those previous highs there. I'm looking at this being the third one for a push back into that low. And if we can break the consolidation, that will give me the green light that says, okay, the sellers are breaking out the range. We're seeing momentum. Hopefully as well, when we do break out, we see price give us some big candlesticks, not a corrective breakout. Those I would look to avoid. But if you can see some big candlesticks breaking through, impulse candlesticks, I will be looking for corrections, possibly the retest of the level, but doesn't have to be. And I'll be looking at some entries back into that low there as well. So you can see with the CHF pairs, I'm kind of looking at the same thing. Pound CHF swing down, New Zealand CHF a big swing down, Aussie CHF big swing down. The only other yen pairs which I don't really like, at least for the sells anyway, CAD CHF. This one's just trapped in the big range really, so I'm not really interested in trading this one at all. Actually, I wouldn't mind to trade this to the upside really. So if this one breaks to the upside, let's say my bias is incorrect with the other CHF pairs and they do push up. If CAD CHF does break to the upside, this actually would be something I'll look to trade. I actually quite like the buys here. First of all, really nice range. If you do see a clean break of it, then there's a good chance we do see a nice continuation. And number two, we do have a pretty big channel here, which price has been trading in for a while. And we've been hugging the downside of the channel for a while as well. So if we do break to the upside, there's probably a good chance we do see a push, a pretty big push anyway, back to the upper end. So, kind of connecting with the highs across there. So you could go put another one in. So if you do break to the upside, trading that gap there back to that trend line is the trade idea. So if CAD CHF does break to the upside, I like it. However, if it does break to the downside, I don't like it. For the main reason we do have pretty big support on our way there, and I don't think the risk reward will be looking too good, especially with my entries on the 4-hour chart. I think Aussie CHF and New Zealand CHF have a lot more for me to fill. So not a big fan of this one to the downside, but to the upside, I do like it. And Euro CHF is quite choppy as well, but that one looks like it's slowly trying to push to the upside as well. But in terms of the trend, it's not looking as clean, especially with that gap there this week. Very, very ugly gap. We had some consistency with the higher lows. However, we failed to continue, and then the big gap to the downside there. Yeah, damn, that's a very unfortunate gap. Because, of course, there's a few people on the stream who have had the gaps go their way. Holy One was shorting some yen pairs earlier. Rex and Philip from earlier said they're shorting Euro USD and Pound USD, so they would have had some nice profits as soon as the week opened up. But equally, there will be people on the other side of these gaps that would have paid a little nasty price to start the week off 100% because let's say, for example, you're trading Euro CHF here, where's your stop loss if you're trading on this time frame? Probably underneath this low here. So, if you had like a very refined entry, something like here, and your stop loss is there, you're in a bit of profit probably as the week closed. You're probably, if this was 1%, you're probably going to lose because we opened up here. So you're probably losing probably about at least 2%, but probably close to 3%, I would say. Of course, just eyeballing it here. But it depends also where your broker filled you. It could have been a little bit higher up, but most likely it's going to be at that entry price. Of course, depends what broker you're looking at as well. This is Oanda. But if you're trading here, you would have been losing 3 times as much as you originally planned, which is why you keep your risk small, because if you're risking 1% here and you end up losing 3, of course, it's not ideal, but it's not going to be the end of your trading career. You take a trade, instead of losing 1%, you lose 3%. You can very easily come back from that. As long as you've got an edge in the market, you'll make that 3% back either pretty soon or eventually you'll make it back. So it's not going to be career ending. But if you're risking, let's say, 50% of your account here banking on that trade, 100% you've blown your account. So that's all gone. Goodbye. So that's where you keep your risk small, because at the end of the day, yes, you got a stop loss in there, but stop loss is not guaranteed. Slippage happens, gaps happen. You be filled at the next available price. And if it's down here, you're losing at least double, but probably 3 times as much as you initially thought you'd lose as well. So that's where you keep your risk small. It doesn't have to be 1% per se, but you keep it minimal. So if you go on a losing streak or you take a bigger loss than expected, you can come back from that. It depends what capital size you're trading with as well. But the big lesson is keep the risk minimal. Otherwise, if you don't, a situation like this, although they're not frequent, you don't see gaps happen this big. So the probability of it happening was pretty low, but you just don't know sometimes with trading. There's one lesson that you will learn if you haven't learned already, is that anything can happen. Literally anything can happen. So as long as you kind of keep the risk managed, you'll be alive to fight another day. CTF3 we're 5 pips away from a close as well. Close, yeah, it doesn't have to be at pinpoint price. 5 pips away doesn't make such a big deal. Yeah, I've seen people talk about that closing just before your targets. About should you do it, should you not do it? I think in general, if it's very, very close, it makes sense just to close if you want to. You don't have to, but if you want to, because there will be some trades that get 5, 3, 2 pips away from you, or 1 pip away from your target, that do eventually reverse against you and potentially go all the way to break even. Let's say you're up 90 pips in profit. Your target's 95 pips. You're waiting that extra 5 pips for your target to get hit, but potentially price might reverse against you and you walk away for break even. So you're 90 pips up, trying to catch an extra 5, but then you eventually lost the whole 90. So sometimes it can make sense logically just to book the profits, really. Of course, there's a gray area in that, because you don't want to close the profits too early. You want to let your winners run. But if it's right next to it, yeah, it's not gonna be a big deal. But if you do it enough times, it will start to add up. Manzondi, what's up? Welcome to the stream. Hope you are well. Very true. Okay, yeah, exactly. 5 pips away, not going to cause too much of an issue. I do that sometimes as well. Especially if price action is looking a little bit dodgy. I'll close it just get out of the market. You just don't want to do it too early, because then you leave too much on the table. Anyway, so yeah, with Euro CHF, pretty messy price action there. I'll probably leave this one alone right now. I do like the CHF pairs in general, but yeah, I'm not really seeing opportunities just yet with them. I'm going to go take a look at some of the crypto markets, because they're interesting, and then we'll go through some of the crosses. Ninad didn't know about the gap when it happened. That stop loss goes to the first price since opening. Yeah, to me, I have paid attention to it. Yeah. Of course, when you're getting start of trading, all these little kind of things you might not pick up on initially. I think that's why experience is the best teacher with trading, because there's one thing to back test and just listen to other people, which is good because you get information that you would take a long time to get if you just did it yourself. However, there's nothing like actually trading and actually just getting experience, because stuff like that you probably wouldn't know until it eventually happens to you, or maybe someone told you for some reason. So stop losses aren't guaranteed. If you put a stop loss in the market, depends on the broker as well, but if you put a stop loss in the market, that's basically an order for you to exit a position, and it needs price to get there to be triggered. And of course, because with us traders, the market closes over the weekend, but of course, in general, let's say if you're trading Euro USD, transactions between Euro and USD don't just stop on Friday at 10 p.m. UK time. They continue throughout the weekend. People exchange money, and people buy and sell positions as well. So The markets are closed for us retail traders, but in general, it's still open. So price is still moving and still fluctuating. And of course, that's how gaps happen, and especially if news happens as well. You'd see a lot of moves over the weekend, and then price is going to open at the next available price. So because if it gaps past your stop loss, the broker's not going to now fill you at that position where you had your stop loss. It will fill you at the next available position, which is wherever the market's opened up from the gap. So yeah, wherever it opens, that's where you look to take the position, take the loss. It's effectively like slippage or something, which is what I was saying earlier about minimizing your risk. Because with this Euro CHF, for example, if you had an entry here, stop loss there, and let's say you're risking 50% of your account, you're 100%. That's likely to blow your account 100%. But if you keep the risk minimal, 1%, 2%, 3%, of course, you're losing 2 or 3 times what you originally planned, which is not great, of course, but you're still alive to fly again, and you can still continue. So keep the risk minimal, because anything can happen. You can get some black swan events as well, like what happened with the CHF back in, what was that, 2016 or something, 2015? Crazy move, big move, like can't remember how many pips in a matter of a few seconds. That's gonna slip you big time as well. Of course, things like that are once in a blue moon, but they can happen too. No problem, Nanad. Happy to help. Gold, yeah, I'll take a look at gold for you. Okay, I'll go through gold, then I'll go through some crypto markets, then we'll take a look at some of the crosses. Okay, so yeah, with gold, still very bullish. We do have a pretty steep trend line here backing price in terms of momentum, still seeing higher highs and higher lows here. So as this momentum continues, I still do expect gold to keep pushing and go take out those highs there. So at the weekend, when I filmed my weekly analysis, I said there's kind of 2 real setups or 2 plays I'm looking at. Either we get the bigger pullback for gold, which is back to retest this level, which is the same level I was speaking about last week, which unfortunately we just missed the retest of. I think this is still a really nice place for a buy. However, we might only see more intraday type pullbacks for gold because there's still a lot of momentum in it. And keep an eye on this area here and this level here. Looks like we're kind of already respecting that first area and we're pushing up. We may still come back down again. We got some nice trendline confluence just below us here. I've connected all these higher lows there. We might see price push back into that same region and bounce. But the goal is to trade gold back to the highs, because gold's still very bullish. We're at all-time highs. Yes, a bigger pullback could happen at some stage. It probably is likely to as well. But the plan is to keep riding momentum until proven otherwise. We haven't been proven otherwise yet, so I'm still anticipating gold to keep pushing. The moment we do break through the trend line, we'll start looking for some bigger pullbacks into this area. We might pull deeper as well, so we'll keep an eye out for that. But for now, momentum is still intact. So, yep, I expect a pullback and a push back to the highs. And these 2 levels here at the area of interest for myself, especially this one here with the trend line going through it as well. But yeah, expecting gold to take out these highs probably later in the week. In terms of Bitcoin, so we had a big reaction to the downside here for BTC. Ethereum had a massive drop as well. Ooh. We'll take a look at that one quickly as well. But yeah, Bitcoin, big push to the downside. I said last week that I wasn't really happy with the price action at the high here because we spent how many days there, numerous days there, trying to break through the same level. And because Bitcoin relies so much momentum, it's not like your typical Euro USD or Pound USD or whatever. Bitcoin relies so much momentum. The fact that we're stuck at this level here, it had a big sign that price is struggling, and it's probably going to take a push to the downside to go find some more buys. Maybe in the next attempt, we do go and break through, because this is a big range here. Equal lows there, equal highs there. Maybe price is going to consolidate and go have another attempt at trying to break through the resistance. And maybe on that next attempt, we do. But this attempt here, the fact that we spent so long trying to break through was never really a good sign for the buyers. So now that we've pushed back down, back into support, I think this is a nice place for a buy, especially for a stop loss below that wick there. I know the market's quite volatile now. You might wick through again, so be wary of that. But if that's the case, you can always look to re-enter afterwards. But I think this is still a nice place for a buy. And again, look to anticipate a push back to that level. If Bitcoin does break through 92K, then I do think we're going to see a pretty big retracement and probably take us back to 73, 74K, which is kind of back down here. So if Bitcoin does break through that level, then I do see a pretty big move back down. If we can hold this as support, then we can probably push back up again. So I would say buys look good for now. I'm always anticipating support or resistance to hold until it doesn't. So I think the buys look good. The moment we do see a strong close below, I'll scrap that bullish bias and start talking about some shorts back into this area. But yeah, really big sell-off there for Bitcoin this morning. And yesterday as well, Sunday, we were already looking pretty bearish too. Ethereum fell flat on its face as well. As you can see, I know it's having a pretty big pullback right now off the wick, but as you can see, open up very bearish today. And how big was that move from the open till the wick low? A 26% drop in a day there. Not even a day. That's just within like the first few hours of a day. So you can see how volatile crypto markets can be. You know, you won't see Euro USD drop 26% in a day at all. If that happens, there's a massive crash. So that's why crypto is attractive, because it can give you 26% in a day, but also unattractive if you have a lot of capital and you want to kind of slow and steady gains. Of course, you can just buy and forget about it. But if you had a $1 million there, you drop 26% in a day, you're losing 26% of $1 million. Of course, you could make it back straight away, but it's just very volatile. Anyway, we'll come back into some healthy support, which again, I think is actually a nice place for a buy, just like Bitcoin. We've come back into a really nice place for a bounce as well. Again, I think the longer term move for Ethereum is still back to the all-time highs. I'm still looking at that move there. I think if you're looking for a longer term position, this is actually not a bad place for it. Stops below, looking for that move there. I think this is actually a nice place for a buy. And we're already leaving a big wick. It's going to be interesting to see how the daily candle closes, though, whether we will continue to pull back or fill the wick. Either way, it's a nice spike. Of course, in terms of entries, we need to get back there again if you are going to find any entries, unless you've already got in the trade. But yeah, we'll see how that daily candle does close. But I do expect to see a bounce from here and possibly maybe back to this area. That's the support we broke through, a lot of momentum. I do think we can at least come back and retest that around 3K. But we could still sell off, so I would watch out for that. How did Litecoin move? Damn. So that was a really big sell there as well. Although coming back into some nice support there too. I think that's a nice place for a bounce. But yeah, crypto, very ugly price action, I must say. Very ugly price action. But again, we don't want to get too caught into the intra-week, intraday moves, because this is still a very bullish market. Look at the higher time frame trend, very strong impulse. There's still consolidation. So you don't want to get too sucked into what price is doing there. You want to look at the bigger picture, which is still very bullish. Even if you do break to the downside, price is likely going to keep pushing. So yeah, that's kind of my take on the world of crypto. Anyway, let's go back to some of the crosses. I haven't really looked at these guys. Pound NZD and Pound Aussie, I'll be looking to buy them. But I missed the buy a couple of weeks back. They just missed my levels, unfortunately. So on the daily chart, I was looking for a breaking test of the high here for Pound NZD. You can see we weren't too far away when we missed that level there, unfortunately. And now we're looking very bullish. Now it looks like we're probably pushing back to the high. And we had a really consistent uptrend here for Pound NZD. As you can see, with all these higher lows, 1, 2, 3, kind of 4 there with that double bottom, 5. That's like number 6 there as well. So the plan was to try and catch the next higher low on the retest of the high there, but looks like we're just about to take off right now and push back to the high. I did say in my weekly analysis that I would consider the retest of the range. So This is our ranging market here. Nice consolidation, healthy break to the upside. I was going to consider price coming back for a retest for a long, but looks like we're not even getting that anymore. Bit of a dip there at the end of last week, and of course with that massive candle, looks like we might just continue to the upside from there. But this is still a nice opportunity, so I'm still going to keep an eye on that. But yeah, it looks like we might be pushing back to the highs there, and this is going to be the next high low in that sequence. Pound Aussie is pretty much looking for the exact same thing there as well. So very, very bullish on Pound Aussie as well. Really nice higher highs and higher lows, as we can see. So again, looking for the next one. I was looking for the retest of this high here, just missed it. And again, Pound Aussie's been looking pretty bullish ever since, and looks like we're probably going to push back into the high. If I drop to the 4-hour chart, again, considering the retest of the range here, but to be honest, I was never really looking at this one because this one's a lot further away. Pound NZD, the retest of the range was pretty close, so I was kind of just focusing more on Pound NZD since we already had a bit of a bearish candle there right at the end of last week. So it was looking pretty likely at the time that price was going to come back and retest that level for some buys. But of course, in hindsight, we can see that didn't happen. Pound Aussie was a lot further away, so I wasn't too focused on Pound Aussie. And yeah, it's looking pretty bullish as well. So probably going to push back to the high. Again, there could be some intraday corrections to keep an eye out for. Something like this for a buy there, and you're kind of retesting the high then the left. So something like that on the hourly or 30-minute chart could look good because that bigger pullback is probably not on the cards. But yeah, it looks like we are forming that next high low. So expecting a push back into resistance. In terms of Euro NZD, yeah, still consolidating here. So not much to report on, to be honest, since we last spoke, because we're consolidating there. But it's funny thing is we're consolidating inside a big consolidation. This is the high and low of a really big range here on the daily chart. Price has been jumping up and down between both levels. We're trading at the high of the range now. You can see the past two reactions, 1, 2, both gave us really nice moves to the downside, and now they're for a third time. So I said last week that if we are going to reject this level, because we are consolidating here, if we do reject this level, I think a nice sign of that happening would be a strong daily candle close below the consolidation. I think that would be something really to look for, because if you do close below the range strongly, that will be a nice shift of momentum, and the chance of us seeing more downside is pretty high at that point. I'll probably mark the 50% of this range and use that as a nice rough guide, at least for profit taking, at least. So that's more or less the 50% of the range. So back to 1.795, I think would be a healthy target to have. Let's say if we do see a strong close below that range there, then you're just looking for lower lows, lower highs back to that 50%. Of course, you can always leave some to run back to the low of the range just in case we get there as well. But the probability of us getting to the 50s is pretty high. So I think, and of course, with how big the range is, the risk reward back to the 50 looks pretty good too. So yeah, Euro NZD, if we do get a strong close below, I think that's a really nice catalyst to look for. What's up, Lord Up? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're well. Any markets you're looking at, let us know. But yeah, if you do get a strong break out of that range, I would anticipate a lot more downside there. In terms of Euro Aussie, yeah, this one's a little bit, I mean, it's doing the same thing in terms of the range there at a big level, but it's not as high up as Euro NZD, so I don't like it as much. A lot of consolidation here, but again, if you see a strong candle close to the downside, breaking outside of this, I think that'll be a really strong indication that, okay, we're seeing the momentum shift, strong momentum into the high, consolidation, strong momentum out the high. That's a common reversal pattern, impulse, consolidation, impulse down, very, very common reversal pattern. And if we do see a strong break of that, that'll be an indication that, okay, you can drop to low time frames, look for some pullbacks, and ride this back down into the low there, which is some really nice, healthy daily support around 1.6. So kind of waiting for a strong candle to confirm that breakout, and then shorts look good afterwards. But the reason why I like Euro NZD slightly better is because Euro NZD is right at the top of a range, whereas Euro Auss is kind of testing a big level, yes, but just kind of not really at the extreme. So it's not as good, it's not as high up. If you're trading a ranging market, you want to be as high up as possible or as low down as possible, right at the extremes. If I go to UNZD, you can see we're right at the top of the range here. So it's just a better location to short. Again, they're both very correlated pairs. They will end up doing the same thing 90% of the time. So yeah, it's probably not such a big deal which market you trade, but in terms of the technicals, it's a bit cleaner with Euro NZD, so I prefer that one. Rex, what is up? Euro pound moves perfectly well, like I said. Okay. What are you doing with Euro pound? I forgot. New Zealand CAD, Aussie CAD also push up high, like anticipated as well. I did see a bit of a move to the upside for Aussie CAD and NZD CAD. It's mostly consolidation though for New Zealand CAD though. You still, do you take any buys in them? Are you still looking to buy them or? Order because of the gaps that took place in USD pairs, my TVs were hit on Euro. Okay, nice. So you had a pleasant surprise when you saw the gaps when the new market opened. Euro USD dollar CAD currently I'm sitting on my hands. Nice, yeah. Especially after a nice little present like that at the start of the week, have some gaps that go and hit your targets for you. Just kind of sit on those profits, and if you need to get into the market again, if there's a good opportunity, then you get involved. Omar, yes, we'll take a look at dollar yen and pound yen for you. But yeah, really big gaps there in Euro USD dollar CAD. I do think we'll probably see more downside for them, but it might be time for some pullbacks first before we do continue. But yeah, dollar yen and pound yen. So yeah, with dollar yen's still a nice area for a buy for me. Really nice area of confluence. We had the impulse here, correction. We came back down to the 50 of the fib, and we're also testing a nice brief area of consolidation where we pause for a little bit. Nice move down, strong move to the upside, and price is now testing that area again. So we've had some couple nice rejections of that area, but it hasn't quite fit my entry criteria for long. So that's why I've stayed on the sidelines. I'm looking to see if we can develop and give me something to work with maybe later this week. I'm looking for the market to kind of wick through that low first and then looking for some momentum afterwards. But predominantly speaking, entries in this area is what I'm after. And a push back to the high is the goal, really. Continue the swing. Low, higher high, higher low, higher high. So looking for the next higher low for, again, another higher high. And if everything goes well, could be looking at a push back to this high here as well, continuing the higher time frame trend there for dollar yen. So very, very bullish and expecting a lot more upside as long as you can respect this area of confluence. In terms of pound yen, so pound yen, I am pretty bearish as well. I think there's a nice intraday opportunity to look for pound yen, which looks something like this. We've got numerous lower highs here on the hourly chart. So as you can see, one over there, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and we could be looking at number 7. Of course, there's our big gap to the downside for pound yen. But should we have a bit of a correction, fill the gap as well, come back to retest some price support here on the left, will of course be turn resistance. I think that looks like a really nice place to short from. And of course, see a push back into the low there makes a load of sense. So the way I see it for pound yen, corrections, more downside, that's good. In terms of the 4-hour chart, it's a little bit tricky in terms of risk reward and looking to enter at these prices because we're so low down to support. Doesn't really make much sense. So in terms of pound yen, trading it well, I would say focus more on an intraday time frame and look for some pullbacks in that regard there. And yeah, push back to the low looks likely. And if you can take out this low, that probably will be the catalyst to really get us going for a really big sell there for pound yen and probably the rest of the yen pairs as well. No problem, Omar. Happy to help. Yep. 100% Lord, I would agree. We haven't seen gaps this big on FX pairs in a while. especially Euro USD. Yen pairs, they do have a bit of gaps here and there. Like, for example, this is not such a big gap for pound yen. We closed there, opened here. It is a big gap, don't get me wrong, but yen pairs, they do have some decent gaps from time to time, and they can be a bit of a nuisance, but it's not frequent. It doesn't happen much. I'm trying looking for another gap. Can't really see any. There's one there, but that's not that big. Another one there as well, not that big either. It doesn't happen frequently though. Gap there, but pretty small. Okay, that's a decent gap there. Closed here, opened back down here, when it filled the gap, and then had a nice move down. And that's a pretty big gap there. How many pips is that? 150. I think the gap we had for pound yen was 200, so it's even bigger than that one. So it is a pretty big gap, 100%. But especially for Euro USD, that's a huge gap for Euro. I was looking through the market, and I couldn't find another big gap like that for Euro USD until 2017. That's a huge gap for Euro. You don't see that every day. So yeah, I was looking through the market and I couldn't find as one, kind of similar to this until 2017. So it's been a very, very long time since we've seen a gap this big on Euro USD. So I think strange is a bit of an understatement, really, but I agree with you, Lord. Big gaps there. I wonder if we're going to go fill them and possibly continue, and that would be nice, because if you can fill them, look for another lower high, some more shorts. I think that could be a really smart play there. So kind of lower high there, third one there as well. I expect this low to be taken out pretty soon there for Euro. But I think with Trump in power, it's going to see a bit more movement, a bit more volatile markets, which again, if you're an intraday trader holding over the weekend, might be a tricky thing. Of course, gaps can be in your favor. Gaps can be gaps can go against you. Just like with a stop loss, for example, let's say you're in a trade here, you entered there, stop loss here, and you're in a trade, it closes for the weekend, you're in a bit of profit, but then the market gaps and opens here, you end up taking a loss bigger than expected, probably twice as big, maybe. Let's say if you risk 1% there, maybe you end up losing 2 or 2.5, maybe 3. Likewise, let's say if you had a take profit, back at the high here, and the market gaps in your favor and it gaps open here, instead of taking your usual profit up at the high, you get filled here, and you make more than you expected. So gaps can be in your favor. They can go against you. They can give you a bit more profit than expected. They can make you take a bigger loss than expected as well. And everything is just maximized if you're on the lower time frames, because you're trading with a higher lot size. You typically have a smaller stop loss size as well. Everything is just magnified in the lower time frames. As a swing trader, gaps are definitely a part of your trading, because you look to hold overnight, over weekend, numerous times. But on the lower time frames, it can be a bit punishable. For example, a lot of people in the stream have talked about some nice shorts they caught to the downside here, but there will be some people who are bought Euro USD and had like a stop loss here, and there would be saying a few naughty words as the market opened this week, because they were taking a bigger loss than expected as well. So it can go in your favor, it can go against you. I think as long as you keep your risk small, it's not the end of the world. Like I said, if you're risking 1%, in this case, maybe you lose 3%. Again, you can work your way back from that. If you're risking 50, then of course you're not coming back from that unless you deposit more money in another account. So always take that into consideration. But yeah, Euro USD, I like this to the downside. Very, very bearish still. It'd be great if you can go fill the gap and see some downside, just like pound USD as well. It'd be great if you can go fill the gap there and continue, retest that range there, nice consolidation, and then get some shorts back into the low. So that's really my focus on the USD pairs. If we go to the DXY quickly, I'm very bullish on the dollar, looking for us to see some new highs past this point. But yeah, I want to see a correction first and a continuation there. So that's my plan for USD pairs this week. Just hopefully we can see a bit of a pullback. But yeah, guys, we have come up to the end of the stream. If you have found it useful, please be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. It does really help out. I do appreciate everyone who has liked, subscribed. It does really help out. And of course, hit the bell as well so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. If you haven't checked out the Elevating Trades Discord channel, please be sure to go and do so. It's completely free to join. Link at the top of the chat in the description below as well. Free to join. You can chat with other traders, chat with myself. I share ideas there as well. So if you are interested, check it out. And of course, you can find out a bit more about Elevate Traders if you are interested in checking it out. So yeah, link to the Discord in the description and at the top of the chat. But guys, appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much for chatting with me. Of course, I'm live every day this week, every weekday this week, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. UK time. So if you're free, pop in, say hi, and come chat with us. But guys, appreciate you tuning in. Have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next one.